Show. Welcome, everyone, to another week in the world of Serbian football. This is your host, Miller, speaking. Thank you for joining us here on our show. If you're listening on YouTube at the Serbian Football Show or Spotify at Serbian Football Show as well, welcome and thank you for listening. A lot of things to talk about this week with a couple games that Serbia played against Denmark and Hungary. But before that, I have a couple special guests to introduce. First, we have our man, Luka, who is still in Belgrade, I believe. Luka, how's it going, my man?
Hey, man, it's going well. I'm just getting used to doing these podcasts at midnight in Belgrade, dude. As opposed to 6 p.m. on East Coast time,
dude. There's worse places to be.
That's very true.
And also we have our man from Australia, Adelaide's own Veli. How's it going, buddy?
Miloš, just try to listen to how relaxed Luka looks at the moment. You know what I mean? Like midnight in Belgrade. He's been there for over a week and a half here. His dulcet tones, mate. Like it's like Fred Astaire, and now you're coming into Fred Flintstone listening to me. You know what I mean? Like,
oh man.
Some of the mini živi zdravi. Alexa, how are you, brother?
Doing wonderful. Came back to there's a possibility that we might make an economic meetup, me and Luka, considering we're in the same spot at the same time.
Yeah, for real.
And there might be a chance that this podcast might go up a level. So stay tuned for that.
There you go, boys. You guys can meet up at freestyle later.
Yeah.
Yep. After seeing the wackiness of the African qualifiers, I'm all geeked up now. So that was pretty fun.
We're ready to go.
Congratulations. Dude. Congratulations to Cameroon, who just won it in the 124th minute in Algeria. Wow. Crazy. Nothing like international football, especially when, these must-win games for a spot of the World Cup, because that's crazy. Wow. Anyways, we have our own stuff to talk about. Thankfully, we didn't have to take part in any of these insane playoffs or finals, and we got the job done in Lisbon in November. Thank God. So a lot less heartache and a lot less stress for us on this international break. But we still had a couple games. Today we played Denmark. It didn't go so well. We lost 3-0. I'll just say it's good that we got this wake up call early. You'd rather get hammered now than when the games really matter at the World Cup. So it gives Pixie some time to fix some things, particularly at the back. I wouldn't say we played horribly, but I would say that Denmark was a better team. Maybe they didn't deserve to win by 3 goals. I think that was definitely a bit harsh, but I think they deserve winners nonetheless. Luka, what were your thoughts on the game today against Denmark and our first loss, the second loss under Pixie, if you count that loss against Japan? We played a D team.
That was under Pixie? I wasn't even aware, man. But that's
last summer.
Okay. So that's like 2 losses in 17 games or whatever we played so far. So today's game, I was extremely disappointed, man. I really thought I know it's a friendly and all, but at the same time, when we keep talking about it in this podcast, is like keeping that mentality going and keeping that fight going, and not dropping a level. And I think we definitely dropped a few levels for this game today. And I think it all started with the previous friendly that we had, that we barely won 1-0 on an own goal. I mean, that was a hard game to watch, and it felt like it really, really felt like a friendly. This one felt like the Danes were there to play to win, and we were there to play a friendly game. That's how it felt. It was they were a couple levels better than us on everything. Some will say we didn't play badly. Some will say chances didn't go our way or whatnot. But I think at the end of the day, we have to be realistic, and we have to give some criticism to this team. I was surprised and happy to see the energy of the team, especially they're celebrating Nasticic's birthday. They're celebrating with Luka Jovic the birth of his child. I was just hoping that that good aura that is going on in the national team doesn't translate into lackluster performances on the field, and I think that's exactly what happened. I love that the team's smiling, everybody's friendly, everybody's having a a good time enjoying being around each other, being a group of players. And it also speaks volumes that Luka Jovic didn't leave when his son was born. I'll throw that out there as well, and stayed with the team. But I was just worried that that might translate into kind of like a smiley attitude on the field, and I think that's what happened. And yeah, personally, I'm disappointed actually in both games, even though, I mean, we easily could have drew the first game and lost this one, and that would have just been atrocious. But yeah, man, I mean, just disappointed overall. That would be my assessment of the friendlies.
I understand where you're coming from. It's never nice to lose 3-0, but I think this type of game is something that's needed, and thankfully, we don't have the World Cup starting in a couple weeks. We have the Nations League starting in a couple weeks. There's a lot of time to fix the issues. And if you look at it, we had more possession this game. I believe we had more chances as well. So we still were able to create. We still were able to have our passing game going. Although a lot of our final third actions were just ended sloppily or ended by poor touches from Mitrovic, who looked very bad today, and it seems like fatigue is catching up with him a bit, which is not surprising when you see the pace he's been at all season. So I agree with you, Luka. It was disappointing, but I'm not panicking or anything like that. I don't think it's an indictment on the quality of our team. I think it's more of a compliment to Denmark, because they just got hammered 2 days ago by the Netherlands. They got hammered at 4-1 or 4-2. So they were eager to bounce back and get a win, and this was, I think, Eriksen's first game back at home since everything happened. So they were riding high on emotions. They wanted to bounce back. They wanted to win for him. So I think they had probably a lot more motivation than our players did. But obviously, it's no excuse, and you don't want to.
Yeah, dude, and if I can jump in just real quick, man, I'm not saying like the quality. I think the quality of the team is great. I think we definitely have some world-class players in the team, and I think overall our team is a very, very strong team. I mean, I think even quality-wise they're stronger than the Danes, but my problem is more with the mentality and kind of like what I call a smiley attitude on the pitch. And even though it's a friendly, you still have to prepare for competitions coming up like the Nations League and like the World Cup. So that's all I'm saying. I think quality-wise we're still good. I'm not pressing the panic button yet, but it is time to give some sobering criticism of the team.
Yeah, for sure. Billy, feel free to jump in on your thoughts about the game and actually the last two games, pretty much.
Yeah, okay, I'll go with Denmark first, and admittedly, gentlemen, I did watch it with one eye because it started at 2:30 in the morning here in Adelaide, and whoa, do you know what I mean? Like, that's hard work. Listen, on our previous pod when we previewed these two friendly internationals, I was like, yeah, I wanted to win for both games. I'll tell you why. When I look at Denmark, I was there for the last official qualifier, some years ago when I already booked my tickets and, we didn't make it. And I've always had a real affinity with going to Copenhagen and going to Denmark. It is a team that I would love Serbia to be. And there's a number of reasons for that. Number one, the Danish crowd and the Danish public love their national team, rain, hail, or shine. They really do. And they don't have a fickleness about them, and they don't have a up and down attitude towards their national team. And I fully admit that could be an entire generation away by the time it goes down to Serbia. Number two, this is the big one that, again, Denmark could be an example of what we may aspire to. The collective of the Danish national team is greater than its individual parts. And I sincerely believe that was one of the great reasons why Denmark won today, and Denmark have been admired now for quite some time, is because collectively they are a fantastic unit. With Christian Eriksen, we seem to forget that Christian Eriksen's a very fine footballer. It's just, sadly, he's got heart issues and he hasn't been able to play for it's almost a year now, isn't it? Right? And then he's had to move clubs now, and then because he wasn't able to play in Serie A because of the heart device that he has, he's not able to play there. He went to the Premier League, but he needs time to recover. He needs time to regain fitness. And Christian Eriksen's a very, very fine footballer, so they were always going to have that emotion there for him playing in any type of international. Does the loss hurt? No, but shipping in 3 definitely does. And I think that, Milos, you made a really good point there that, Mitrovic is starting to look fatigued, which he's meant to. We are now in the end of March going on to April. There is, 6 weeks to go, 8 weeks to go of his season. So he's meant to look tired. When he does look tired, he does look heavy for some reason. I know that's not the right possibly analogy, but he does. This is the only thing that I have in in the 2 games that we played, and I agree that the Hungary game was a real friendly. We did push the ball around very well. Let me rephrase that. We pushed the ball around okay, and we made a couple chances, but we still sort of look vulnerable at the back. And this morning we shipped 3. But it's clear in the focus where the Serbian team is moving forward. We're just going to hope to score 1 more goal than you do. And that's how we're going to get our results. The goalkeeping position is still up for grabs. So I'm telling anybody with a Serbian passport, in the entire world, I still have this feeling that you're in with a chance. But the other thing that we come in is our substitutes again really need to step up the plate, because I still believe that, goalkeeping position aside, basically our 10 outfield players almost pick themselves, and then whereabouts where they go is still not 100% concrete. But I don't see anybody on the substitute bench burning the house down to get onto that starting outfield position, because, as I said, the goalkeeper position is still up for grabs. So, listen, I'd rather the loss out of the way now. Shipping 3 hurt more than the loss, and I would anticipate a significant improvement in the Nations League games, because all of a sudden we went from non-competitive internationals to competitive. We'll go to competitive internationals here in June, and so I hope that they live up to Selector Stojkovic's words and say, okay, do you know what I mean? Like we had our focus on our Nations League games, and we hope to see a marked improvement there, because a marked improvement is necessary. So
Valley,
that's my take on it.
Okay, if I can just jump in real quick, man, just 2 observations. Well, 1 observation, 1 question. First observation is, it was 3-0 for Denmark. Let's not also forget that they also hit the post, and they also missed a 100% chance when the guy skied it over the goal. I mean, that easily could have been 5-0, 5-1, 5, maybe 5-2 if we were lucky, if we put our chances away.
Absolutely. But can I put it this way?
Yeah.
Right? So, again, through one eye, I stayed on and watched some games afterwards, okay? And I watched the Boarfest, which was Poland versus Sweden, and I'm spewing Sweden not going to go to the World Cup because they were going to have another super trendy Adidas strip and tracksuit tops to show the entire world. So that's life, right?
Right.
But Poland have one of Europe's great strikers in Robert Lewandowski.
Right.
Right? And they don't look good at all. They really don't. They've been shitting themselves on the international stage for over a decade now. While Denmark, do they have one of Europe's top 20 players that play in Denmark at the moment? They are a real collective. They are a real team, cohesive outfit. And in that way, that's why I want Serbia to aspire to, because at the moment, we've got a lot of fantastic individuals. I want that to turn into an unbelievable collective, an unbelievable team, a squad.
I'm 100% with you.
Yeah, no, I know you are, brother. Yes, they hit the bar, and then they had really good chances. But I think Europe at times underestimates how good Denmark is, and how good Denmark is at home, especially. So we were just lucky that we caught them on a non-competitive international. We are played away from home. The loss to me doesn't hurt as much as in shipping in 3. Shipping in 3 hurts more. Right?
And what would you have been saying if they shipped in 5?
Exactly the same. Right? That maybe we've got to look at whether we're playing at 3 at the back is the most wisest thing that we can put out there. Right? Because, we could have shipped in 5. I agree with you. There's no two words about your way about that, but we are in a non-competitive international fixture, of which my alarm bells is that, as I said, I think we have 10 outfield players that pick themselves, and then there's that gap between that and the substitutes bench. Right? So, Nastasic comes on and all that, and we talked about it in our preview pod previous. We were going through that squad and who's playing regularly, who's, some of them are in really good clubs, but they're not playing. And, at the end of the day, let's be really brutal about it. Radonic got minutes. Grujic got minutes. Luka Jovic got minutes. Although, he was the substitute that got substituted off after that, right? They're not getting those minutes for their clubs. And so, I agree with you. You know what I mean? That's our cause for concern because, like as I said, the loss doesn't hurt as much as shipping in 3, and it would have hurt more if we shipped in 5.
I think
we had a couple half chances.
Right.
Right. So my thing is more like this. There's COVIDs, there's injury, there's long-term injury. Right. What happens if a Kostic or SMS or a Vlahovic or a Mitrovic goes down for a significant period of time? That's where I think that our weakness lies, because if it continues like this, we can substitute a Jovic for a Mitrovic, but we're substituting a Mitrovic who plays all the time for a Jovic who plays hardly ever, and we want the same expectations. So I believe that's where our weaknesses.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said, Billy. I will just jump in here with my final thought before I turn it over to Alexa here. The thing I'm most worried about, where the alarm bells are ringing after this game against Denmark, is the ability of this team to drop concentration, level of play, just literally everything to a level that's, it's just a drastic drop from what we're used to under Stojkovic. And if, this might be the first time that this drop has happened under his reign. However, I don't like to see it because that automatically gives me alarm bells. And then I'm thinking in my head, hey, will this drop happen when the matches actually count? And is it a possibility that it is going to happen? Well, if history shows us, yes, it is a possibility. So I don't want these drops happening in the World Cup or in some other qualifying or in the Euros in the future. So that's why the consistency still is not there where I would like it to be for the quality that we have on our team.
So this is what I say, like with Denmark's collective. Their concentration is part of their collective. They are an extremely well-oiled national team. And, I grew up with them, showing my age, of course. My dad, he's still going in his 80s, used to say that the old Yugoslavia used to pump Denmark regularly by 3, 4, or 5. And then they had that evolution in the 1980s that went into the late 1980s, went into the 1990s. And what I've seen that is significant about that national team is they've had periods of very good individuals, and that has translated into a fantastic collective. And then they've had a period of not so high profile individuals, but it's still translated into a fantastic collective. And in a way, I think they are characteristics that the Serbian national team could aspire to. So, that's my thought on that. The Hungary game, probably less said about that the better, but, going to Hungary, winning away from home, again, was a really good outing for us. I know it was an own goal, but, playing against a hostile atmosphere, and the Hungarian fans really made it for a, less of a boring fest that it possibly
that was impressive.
could be. Again, I think we were well worth that. However it was, at the end of the day, history says that we won, and I think we were worth that victory. But
the great thing about these games, though, was both stadiums were really nice and both really nice atmospheres.
Yeah, for sure.
That was
Denmark.
Really cool.
Denmark always provide a fantastic atmosphere,
and there was a lot of our fans. A lot of our fans were.
There was,
yeah.
and I'll put it this way: if a Copenhagen stadium could fit 150,000 people there, it is the type of stadium that if you had a wife and 3 kids, you could take them there and you'd feel perfectly safe.
Right.
It's like Ireland.
Right.
It's a family atmosphere.
Yeah, it's just a wonderful atmosphere. But I don't think that would be the case in other stadiums around Europe. So I think I've spoken a lot. I think I've spoken a lot about my
turn. I would just say. I mean, you mentioned earlier Mitrovic and him looking tired. Like, you're right, he does look heavier when he's tired. And the thing is, he shouldn't have been playing both these games the full 90 minutes, or he got subbed off, but he almost played the full 90 minutes in this game as well. I mean, that's why, we were saying maybe this is the time to try a third striker out since Lakic is out, maybe give somebody a chance, like Makaric scoring goals, same with Jovanovic in Israel scoring goals. So, I mean, it was too much to ask for. Mitrovic who's definitely tired to play both games, and then Jovic was not playing at all to play, both games as well.
And why sub out for Jovic when he was already a sub and not take out Mitrovic? I didn't get that.
I believe he was injured. I think he said he was injured after the game.
I see.
So yeah. And Alexa, what were your thoughts on the 2 friendly games?
Well, there were positives to be taken out of, I think, both games, and certain negatives. I would say that starting with the Hungary game, we'll get to the Denmark game quickly. And by the way, everything you guys said, I see both sides of the coin, and I think a lot of stuff was very well said. The Hungary game, I think both teams that we played against took these games seriously. Hungary certainly went out to make it a physical game. They beat the crap out of our players for most of the game. They were very physical. They were tackling us tough, and I think that the difference in quality that we have between us and Hungary is in some ways the difference in quality that Denmark had against us in this friendly. At least that's what it appeared to look like. Didn't really look like we ever got out of second gear in the Hungary game. We were moving the ball well. They pressed us hard initially, but I think that as the game progressed, we were getting better. We were getting more comfortable. We created more chances. Yes, the goal we scored was an own goal. It wasn't particularly nice, but we were the better team. I think that if we went out with a stronger approach, we probably could have scored a few more goals. And it was nice to see a couple things. It was nice to see milinkovic-savic in goal. He was the standout piece for sure. And I think that as time progresses, I think he's going to be more and more tipped to be the number 1 goalkeeper because of his passing ability, his height. He's like 6'8", and he's a goalkeeper for a very good team in Italy. So I'm pretty sure that inevitably he's going to win that spot, considering this fact that Mitrovic is out of favor, and Rajkovic, has not had a very good game for a while. He hasn't really had a great game since Azerbaijan. So, he was good in the Portugal game away, and he couldn't in a few other games, but he's had some brain fart moments. And I think that Vaden's ability showed that our goalkeeping situations, if anything, is pretty tight, which is a good thing after a while. I mean, we're stuck with just 1 goalkeeper that they couldn't do much. On the side note, with the Hungary game, really frustrated with the officiating at this point of Mitrovic. I think that they got to let the guy breathe. I think to punish him for his height and for his size is unfair. The penalty absolutely should have been called. He was being pulled for like 20 yards before he got into the box, and because he's Mitrovic, who's physical and strong, they're not going to call that. But they should call that because if anyone else, that is a penalty. So that's very frustrating to see. Hungary were a well-drilled, disciplined team. They didn't really threaten us that much. They had a couple chances, but early on, once we weathered that storm, we took control of the game. We didn't really have many issues after that, so wasn't really bothered by anything. Other guys got an opportunity. Nobody got injured, so it was fine. The Denmark game was obviously the more important game. They're a team that probably closer to us quality-wise than Hungary is. Actually, they're better than us, but I mean the gap between us and Hungary is bigger than the gap between us and Denmark. Didn't nearly have to be 3-0. That point stands. It sucks to lose 3-0. I think that one of the aspects of modern football, however, that has developed over time is that, quite simply, games that are very even in terms of statistics, in terms of possession, in terms of the eye test, can go very rapidly one way or another, and the score can be very high, even if what you saw on the pitch wasn't necessarily a reflection of that. We just saw that with Rangers and Red Star when it ended up being 3-0. It wasn't really a 3-0 game. And that's the case with modern football a lot more than with football 15, 20 years ago, because the game's more open now. Players are more efficient in front of goal, and that's essentially what happened here. Denmark took their chances very well. We have to take into account that this is a team that went to the semifinals of the European Championship. This is a team that's very well drilled in. A lot of their guys play together, whether it's in the Danish league or whether it's in the Premier League, they play for Brentford or they play for other teams. And their manager has been there for just over a year and a half and has drilled them in to look almost like a club side. And that's really the most impressive thing, that they look very well organized. Their movements, their mechanisms, the way they attack, the way they defend, are things that are very hard to match up against. And they really look like they've been playing together every day for years now. And that's something that at international level, when you don't really have too much time to work with your team, can make a world of difference. And that's their biggest strength and their biggest testament, the way that their players are moving without the ball. Guy comes in, whether it's Kasper Dolberg or whether it's Scott Olsen or somebody, he drops back to get the ball. Somebody else runs in behind the defense. The way they're moving without the ball, this guy runs to the first post, this guy drops back. They're really well oiled, and the second goal we conceded was another example of that, the way they pressed us. They read the game very well. They prepared for us extremely well. They recognized that their ability to play out of the back was limited, and they, didn't allow the midfield to take over the game. They pressed Rajkovic and they pressed the defenders to beat them with their passing ability and with their creativity. They weren't able to do that, and as a result of that, the second goal ended up happening because they pressed Kostic and lost the ball, and ultimately they punished us for it. A little bit of bad luck was on our side too. Mitrovic, usually the chances that he had today, he would have scored at least one. He wasn't on point. The first goal they scored as well, that's just an unlucky deflection. It was a good strike, but if that doesn't deflect off Milinkovic, Savic probably saves that. So the score itself is not necessarily that big of a deal. Statistically, we weren't far behind them. They had more possession. They had more chances. We could have scored goals too. People will make the argument that Denmark were missing players. They were missing Thomas Delaney. They were missing Simon Kjær. But I think that it's evident that we had two losses today that were huge. Not having Vlahovic, not just because of his ability, but because of how he fits into this team, is a massive loss, no matter how you slice it and dice it. As great as Mitro is and as good as Lukojovic can be, if you don't have your best striker available, and at this moment on form, your best player, that is a big deficit that Denmark didn't have. They didn't have that problem. And not having Darko Lazovic is a huge issue, at least for that side, because as much as I love him, Živkovic, he's not necessarily a wingback, and he's basically limited to just cutting in on his left foot and not really able to create an advantage with his pace. He's not really able to create an advantage.
We missed the speed of Lazovic for sure.
Yeah, and not only that, with Lazovic, at least you can build up positionally because he's played wingback for a long time. He knows how to play. He's very tactically astute. He's still physically ready enough to where he can cover that side on his own. And I mean, another thing we saw that he has the physical tools. He's got great pace. He's able to hold the ball up. Technically, sometimes things can look good, but he has no idea really how to use it. And if you limit him to trying to beat you one-on-one, and if you limit the space where he can run, then his productivity is severely limited because he doesn't even play wingback for his club. So you're kind of limited in that sense. And if you aren't able to break down that in positional sense, then you don't really have much to go to. So Denmark's ability was great. The team they have is still very good. They've got a goalkeeper, Kasper Schmeichel, who's one of the best goalkeepers in the Premier League. They've got experienced defenders. Pierre Højbjerg is one of their best defensive midfielders in the Premier League. Christian Eriksen, for whatever people want to say about him, is still the genius that he's always been. I would like to also say, however, I'm kind of disliking this whole craziness about, the banners about him and him getting the awards and stuff like that. That's fine. The dude's not like disabled. He made a choice to come back. I appreciate the support that we've been giving him, and he deserves it, and he deserves a lot of respect for the bravery to come back. But at the same time, he made a choice to come back. We shouldn't be going crazy, super happy every goal he scores. That's kind of demeaning to him, and it's just kind of annoying at this point. Like, let the dude play the game. That's going to be a bigger sign of respect to him than anything else you do. Moving on to the general sense I have about us is I'm going to give one tactical observation, if I may, and then I'm going to give one broader observation before I leave it to you guys. I think that this game proved that this team, the way that it's structurally set up, is much better suited on counterattacking situations than it is trying to take the game to someone, which is what we tried to do. We really tried to press Denmark, try to go at them. They were breaking on our press very easily, quick 1-2 passes, moving off the ball well. Our midfield was caught out of place. We weren't able to really come back in certain situations. The second goal is a prime example of that, where we lose the ball, the midfield's not there to pick it up, and the guy comes in from out of nowhere and slots it in. And I think that it is much more better for us to attack and counter-attacking situations, because that's how we scored our goals. The Portugal game on the road, the goal that we got from Tadic was basically a counter-attack that was started, and then the second goal was also a semi-counter-attack. Both goals in the first game against Portugal were counter-attacks, so it's a system that suits us more. It gives more space and more freedom for our forward players to do damage. Also, I think that it's evident that us playing with two strikers and not packing the midfield really doesn't work. I think that hopefully Pixie's learned that pushing Sergei forward to be a second attacking midfielder is not the option. We saw that with Milinkovic. It didn't work that well in most games. And if you drop Sergei back to play with Lukic and Gude or whoever the other two midfielders are, he looks better. That's what he plays in Lazio. He's basically one of the three central midfielders. He's not pushed forward to be next to the striker. And the games that we've played, where we've looked good, we've had five midfielders, and that was what happened against Portugal in the home game. We had two strikers in front. We went 2-0 down. Pixie put in a fifth midfielder. He left Mitrovic on his own up front, and the game changed. And I think that it showed. And as well today, when we put Marko Grujic in and Racic in the second half, we looked better. We looked more composed. We were able to put the ball back from some of the
more shape.
Better shape in the midfield. We weren't getting flustered on counterattacks. Even when Denmark was progressing the ball, we were able to come back and defend in a block and two banks of four, or in this case, a 3 and a 5. And I think that that's something that we have to choose. Fortunately, we have enough midfielders to where we're not really going to be in the problem to pick them. We got Maksimovic, Grujic, Ivanovic, other guys that are going to fit that. So hopefully, in that sense, we go there. There's also other things we can talk about. Pavlovic's ability to carry the ball out of the back is a very admirable trait, but against a team that is physically strong enough to where they can dispossess you, and Denmark will really show their physicality. This is the first team in the Pixie era that's really, I felt like, outran us. And I don't want to say that we didn't care, because Andrzejkovic almost got in the fight, and Mitro looked really pissed that he didn't score. But they really outran us. A lot of the 50-50 balls went their way, and hopefully that doesn't repeat itself, because that's one thing that really I don't want to see happen. I can live with somebody being faster than us and being technically more sound, but a lot of the situations, they should go to us, because we have the physical capacity to win those 50-50 balls, whether it's in terms of our pace, whether it's in terms of our strength. So I really hope that doesn't repeat itself. There's other tactical things we can talk about, whether Pavlovic should play in these games. Maybe you should put Nastasic there. Should you try and give Bikovic more minutes? There's time to figure it out. At the end of the day, it's a friendly. And what Pixie said at the end kind of brings me to my wider point, that the loss itself is not that problematic. And on first glance, that statement might sound a bit problematic itself, because you want to win every game, and they clearly take these games seriously, as they should. But at the same time, it's like we didn't concede a goal to Bulgaria like Croatia did, for example. It's not like we lost to a random team. We lost to a good team. It's probably a little bit better than us, probably much more in tune and just in a better sense of chemistry and longevity than we are. A team that's very individually talented. We played on the road. And at the same time, this really doesn't change the position that this team was in. This team, even before this game, was not going to go to the semifinals or the finals of the World Cup, which is what some journalists, some fans have already written in. They've already penciled in, they were winning the thing. And this game doesn't mean that we're going to go to the tournament and embarrass ourselves and get knocked down in the first round. This team still has the capacity to beat anybody at the tournament, which no team that I've followed has said before has had. Like, not even the Rade Merantic team back in 2010 was a team where they looked at it and went, okay, yeah, we can beat anybody at the tournament. This team can do that, even if we are outsiders against maybe 8 or 9 or 10 teams that are in the first pot. And also, we're favorites against some of the teams most of the teams in Pop 4 and some of the teams in the other pots that we were playing against. So this team has a lot of potential. There's a lot of time to figure things out. Pixie has shown that he can adjust. He's made mistakes, whether it's from a tactical nature or whether it's from a personnel nature. He's made adjustments in games. He's made adjustments between qualifying cycles. And most of his changes have gone either well or really well. And the brain trust of the team is such that I trust them to make the right decisions. There's enough talent on the squad. The guys seem to be motivated, and they all seem to care. So I would lay off the pessimistic viewpoint that people are having and the fatalistic sort of approach that I talked about in the last podcast, which is unfortunately a standard practice for us. And I wish it wasn't, but you have to live with that. And just have faith in the guys. Keep the support. Keep the belief. And again, things can change easily. You get the draw. And if we get a really comfortable group, then your whole viewpoint could change. And there are other teams that have lost games and friendlies with a convincing scoreline, and then they went to tournaments and played really well. So this game is frustrating because I really don't like Denmark, and I really am disappointed that we lost this. But at the same time, we didn't lose to a bad team. We didn't play terribly. Every decision that was made, I see a reason why that decision is being made. I see a reason to what we're trying to do. Maybe there are certain preferences or things that I would like to do and what we'd like to see, but at the same time, Pixie has shown that he's got enough footballing intelligence from a managerial standpoint to where he can fix those things. There's still time for this team to develop their Nations League games, their European qualifiers games. There's 6 months of time for us to fix this. You're going to have a full month in June to where you can work with guys, you can implement new things. So am I panicking? No. Am I a little bit disappointed and a little bit sad that we lost this convincingly? Yeah, but at the same time, there's time to fix those things, and this team still looks really good. This team still plays attacking football. This team still is competitive physically, football-wise, tactically against all the teams that we've played against. And I'm still keeping the faith. I'm still confident that we can do well. And if the draw goes our way, there's potential for this team to go far. So just the one thing, the last point that I'll make before I leave it to you is that this loss shouldn't change the perception of the fans. The Nations League games are coming up. The weather's going to be nice. I'm hoping that the stadium's going to be full because they deserve it. At the same time, we got to do our part as fans. We got to do our part as the public. We got to support them. We got to be there by them. We got to also be critical of them when they deserve it, but just have a reasonable and rational approach and relationship with the team. And I think they're going to benefit from it, and I think that they're going to repay us back in the Nations League games that are upcoming. So there's time for these things to fix, and I'm not worried at all about what's going to happen in the future. And at the end of the day, the guys are given everything they have, and sometimes that's all you can really ask for. So credit to Denmark for the game they played, but again, the tournament's a different thing, and we'll see what happens if we draw them in the tournament. So
absolutely, Alexa, and I think it's important not to overreact after a friendly loss, but at the same time, there are some glaring issues that we have to address and that are clearly have been a problem, not just this game, but.
If I also may mention one thing very quickly that I forgot to mention, the best thing about this friendly cycle was that, again, by beating Hungary, we have maintained our status of beating teams that we should be beating, which is a really important factor when you get into major tournaments and qualifying groups. The teams that go through are not the teams that beat the big boys. It's if you can beat all the teams you should be beating, which this team has consistently done for a while now. And in the World Cup, that's what's going to get us through. If we beat a pot 4 team, and if we can get something against a team that's maybe higher ranked than us, that's enough for us to get through. And this team has shown the ability to do that, and has also shown the ability to pull off a major upset when they need to. So as long as we keep beating the teams we should be beating, I'm not worried about us because I know we have the talent to surprise any of the big boys. So as long as that maintains itself, I'm not really concerned about the status of where this team is going, and I don't think anybody else should be either.
Definitely, and I would just say one of the issues that has been there for a few games now, I would say, is Rajkovic in goal. He just does not look that confident or that secure with the ball on his feet, or his kickouts. Just not good enough, honestly. And comparing it to Vanya Milinkovic-savic, the 2 games he's played, he's got a cannon for a foot. He's much more comfortable with the ball.
And he's accurate with his passes too.
Very accurate, man. Rajkovic's passing is awful, and his kickouts are awful.
I agree.
They never go past half, or almost never go past half. And they're always sideways and never go to the players. It's really, really tough. And I think also a big test and a good reason why I'm happy there's the Nations League is because we haven't seen Vanya play in a competitive game yet. He looked great against, Qatar in a friendly. He looked great against Hungary in a friendly. Well, let's see how he looks when the pressure's on against, Sweden and Slovenia and whoever else is in our group. Let's see how he does then, because that's going to be the real test. If he's still comfortable with the ball, if he's still doing the things he was doing in those games like he was doing in these friendly games, then I think it's a no-brainer that he starts, because Rakic, love the guy, respect him a lot for what he's done in his career for Serbia and all that, but just he does not look that confident. It might be the nerves of playing for Serbia, it might be an array of things, but he just does not look that confident in goal, and it does not make me confident watching him, especially when he has the ball at his feet. When he's kicking it out, it basically every kick out he has, it's like a guaranteed turnover, because he's booting it to like the other team. He's not hitting to any of our players,
Right.
And it's tough. It's tough to see that, and I think Pixie's definitely taking note of that, because he needs the goalkeeper to start those attacks and to be good at the passing, because he wants the strikers to do the same and the defenders to build up from the back, right? So that's going to be something to follow. And then we have to also address the issue of the left side. Kostic, he has his qualities, but let's just say defending is not one of them, or positioning in a defensive manner is definitely not one of them. And then Pavlovic, you can clearly see that this is a guy that's very low on confidence right now. He has his good qualities, and we've seen them in the qualifying, but right now it seems like he's at the bottom of his confidence. I'm sure going to Basel and losing his starting spot right away and having some poor games there has not helped. So we're going to have to make some decisions in the defense. Maybe you play the guys who are actually playing. Maybe you play Stefan Mitrovic. We've seen him have struggles in the past, but he's having a great season in the La Liga. He's playing every game. Maybe you play, obviously you play Milinkovic, who's playing every game. You maybe play Gudel at the back, because he's playing there regularly for Sevilla now, and they're second place in the La Liga. So this is things that Pixie will have to think about. Obviously, having those guys all starting limits our ability to play at the back. They're not really the best passers. Pretty much our best guys passing the ball out of the back are Veljkovic and Pavlovic, and they get forward well. But, Pavlovic is so out of form. You can see his confidence shot. Hopefully he can get something going for the summer and get a move and start playing and start improving. But every team is going to target our left side. Every team knows it's our weakness. Every team knows that they go after Kostic and go after Pavlovic, because they're not, they're our weekend. How many times did the Danes go through the right side and Milinkovic? Not many. And this is something that's not going to change when the real games start. Unless Pavlovic can improve or Pixie can switch it up. Does he play Spice there? We've seen that in the past, but he's not really lighting the world on fire.
He's really persistent on having the left-footed center back there, and the only other option he has is Nastasic, who can't stay fit. So it's kind of like either damned if you do, damned if you don't. Are you going to accept Pavlovic's ability to carry the ball through, but possibly make mistakes at the back, or are you going to risk putting Stefan Mitrovic in, who's going to be surefire at the back, but he can't pass to save his life? You're kind of screwed either way. So it just depends on the opponent you have. In this kind of a game, it probably would have made more sense to go with Nastasic, Veljkovic, and Milinkovic or something like that, and not try and build from the back and just kind of play, defense and try to go on counters. But I understand why he wanted to press them hard up front. It just didn't work this time. But again, all the decisions that he's making, they're making sense. And
I would just say, if you're going to decide between two defenders that aren't playing, and one of them is 20 years old and one of them is 30 years old, I would go with Nastasic, because he has the experience. He has way more games under his legs. I know he hasn't always been the best for the national team, but I think he's just a lot more solid right now defensively and positioning-wise than Pavlovic, who is a little erratic at times. He gets forward a lot, but he also kind of gets lost in positioning sometimes. He kind of makes a lot of, I would say, brash challenges. Sometimes they work out, sometimes they don't.
Right.
And I think Nastasic is a lot more steady. Maybe he's not making like those amazing tackles, but he's also not taking as many risks as possible.
He's not getting caught out of position trying to press them.
Yeah.
A lot of times,
Right.
Today tried to press the winger, and Denmark just played a quick 2-touch pass, and then they have a 3-on-3 counter.
Right.
And that, maybe that's not necessarily the way to charge at the winger. Try and play more conservatively. But again, our defenders aren't great either. So it really just, it depends on your approach. Do you defend with numbers, or do you try to press them high and make sure that they don't get the ball up front? So, and we don't have the ability to press that well, because we don't really have the pace to cover that much ground. So,
Right.
A lot of it depends on the opponent you're going up against. Like if we would have gone up against Croatia, or if we want to go against someone like that, a team that plays a slower tempo, the way we played today actually would have worked pretty well. But in this type of a game, sitting back and trying to go on counters, like we were able to break through their defense. It wasn't a question of that we couldn't get past them because Mitrovic had chances. Tadic, Kostic were constantly getting down the wing. It was just that we weren't able to get enough people, going forward because we were so tired out from trying to press them that we couldn't get them back to front. And as the game was going on, you guys saw that they were getting in transition much easier. They were spreading the ball much better. It took us a long time for us when we get the ball to get it to the winger or get it to the striker, and we just kind of looked gassed, and we didn't really set it up right. But it's better to learn that now in a friendly than in the first game in Qatar.
Let's also not forget that as nervous as we are watching Pavlovic take the ball and dribble it up the field, and you're like, oh shit, is he gonna lose it? And then in transition, we're gonna be screwed, basically. He was also his dribbling runs, let's say, were also created a couple of goals during qualifying and a couple of crucial goals as well. So let's not forget that either, because like I'm afraid, if it's between like Nastasic and Pavlovic, you put in Nastasic and you're losing a lot of those incisive runs that really open up the defense and let somebody like a Tadic or somebody else really create when they get the ball, because all of the attention is on the runner. So look, the Pavlovic situation for his club is very worrying, of course. Even at Basel, where you think he would and should start and really have a firm position in the team. However, he has played pretty decent for the national team in qualifying. I'm talking about when it matters. He's played pretty decently, and with some Nations League games that we have coming up, perhaps he can rediscover his form. At least I hope so, going into the World Cup.
Yeah, for sure. And Luka, you mentioned, Pavlovic starting a couple of attacks, left the goals. Also, Veljkovic as well. That you remember his assist to Vlahovic against Luxembourg. When we won 1-0.
Right.
So these guys, they might be limited in certain areas, but they're also very handy and very useful in other areas. So it's really a catch-22. I mean, if you really wanted to have a really solid defense that defends against teams that are going to attack us, I mean, you go with Nastasic, Gullit, and Mitrovic in there, Milinkovic in there. We have a lot of defenders, but it just depends on the opponent, I think. And I think
Right.
he's going to have to do some mixing and matching in these games.
The fortunate part is that you've got enough options to rotate. You got
a lot of options. Like if we go against a team that's playing a lot of, like in England or something like that, right? That plays, they play a lot of high balls to Harry Kane, a lot of crosses to Harry Kane. I mean, that's a game where you can probably start Mitrovic against Harry Kane. Like I would, that's a good matchup. Like I think that's a good matchup. Although the speed, is going to be an issue against England, but there's a lot of different mixing and matching that he can do with the defense. Now it's not all great. It's not all going to be good for us, but I think we do have options in defense. Just a lot of those options are not playing. Pavlovic, and then
it's just that a lot of the options are not ideal.
Boys, if I could just quickly add one there, I think the other underestimated thing that we have in our national team is the role that I reckon Selector Stojkovic does play. I have this feeling in my head, and I'm just getting this thing where I think it's justified. I think Stojkovic knows when to possibly put his hand around a player, his arm around him to boost a person's confidence up. I think he has the ability to be stern with a player when he has to be. And I think he has the ability to talk to the group and actually to challenge them to say, all right, what do you guys want to be? Do you know what I mean? Like as a national team, what do you guys want to be? Because, we look at Strahinja Pavlovic and just think about it for 2 seconds. He went from Partizan to Monaco. Now, that is a huge jump. Not just in the standard of the league, but the prestige of the club and the expectations of the club, whatever it is. Monaco, yes, they don't have a massive average crowd at their fixtures. You know what I mean? Sometimes their crowd is 2,000 to 3,000 people, and frankly, I've had more people at my slubber some years, right? So it's not like they have that, but the expectation is rather big. And then when that loan period, I think in Belgium, correct me if I'm wrong, and then going to Basel in the Swiss league, they like to think to themselves as the new power within Switzerland, taking over from Grasshoppers, etc. So the expectation would be huge as well. So I think he is in good hands, having Dragan Stojkovic as the national team manager, and he will know exactly how to deal with the ups and downs of the fortunes of a young footballer playing in Europe and trying to make it. It's just a pity that he probably doesn't see him day in and day out or week in and week out to get that type of guidance. I think on the left-hand side we're okay, because I think Mihailo Ristic is a suitable cover as well. You guys mentioned Stefan Mitrovic. My thing is that we just don't have that substitute banging down on the door to ready replace a player. The thing is with Predrag Rajkovic, I think he still has that look about him where he's a little bit like, I can't believe that I'm here.
100%.
You know what I mean? Like, I think he's a little bit in shock and awe and thinking, wow, okay, I'm actually an A international now. Well, see now, that time is gone. You know what I mean? When you played that game, in front of 10,000 people in Belgrade in the pouring rain against Ireland, you had that game to get those thoughts at the assistants.
Right.
And, see now we need to get on with it. I still don't understand why Marko Dimitrovic has fallen out of the pecking order. I understand that he had a couple shaky performances. I just didn't see those shaky performances of him coming, because the games before those two shaky ones in the last period of qualifying, he looked actually to me safe as houses, and all of a sudden he just fell off a cliff for some reason, and that still surprises me to the very day, and I don't have an explanation for that. So I think this is going to be the big period is going to be this. The players who are not playing for their club size at the moment, I think their summer break is going to be their most interesting part. And I hope that some of these guys get their future sorted out sooner rather than later. So when they go on their summer holiday, I know they're sitting on their beach couches or whatever you call them, and I hope they can sit there and get rejuvenated and get some rest and get some relaxation, rather than sitting on their couches on the beach, whether it be in Mauritius or God knows where, and they don't have a mobile phone next to them, waiting for a phone call from their agent.
Right.
I believe they're called patio furniture belly.
Exactly right. So we don't have them in Australia. You got a towel in the sand and you're told to fuck off.
Old
right?
school, baby.
Absolutely. So because living like that, waiting when the phone's going to ring, is a strain on a player mentally. Make no two bones about that. So it's going to be an interesting time, but I hope the national team gives it its all for 10 more days in June. Then they can go away on their break and get the rest and relaxation that they need, because
and let's hope
life as a football is hard work.
Let's hope that, guy we forget about, Filip Juricic, let's hope he comes back healthy finally, because we miss him too. He can. I think he'd be doing a lot better job right now than Živkovic is on the right side. He's a lot more.
So we have for Tadic, really, if you think about it.
Exactly, and I think he showed a lot of good things playing on the right, even under Tumba, right? So hopefully he gets back healthy, because he's another weapon we can use. Because when you really think about it, we don't really have that many attacking options off the bench. We have been using Radonjic, that's pretty much it, and then Jovic comes on obviously as well. But Jovic won't play much when Mitrovic and Vlahovic are both healthy in there. So I think we need those other options. I think Juricic needs to come back and be healthy, and he's going to be a great contributor. And then, of course, Lazovic needs to stay healthy, because on the right side, he's the best we have. He's the most solid positional player that we have on the right side, defensive-wise as well. And he's got a great cross on him. He runs a lot. He's quick. He's got the pace, and he makes smart runs. And obviously his finishing is not the best, as we've seen in the past. He always gets in those good opportunities and then he misses the post, or he misses the chance. But like he always gets those runs, and he combines well with Tadic and SMS, Mitrovic and Vlahovic. So we really do miss him. I think it's underrated. He's underrated how much we miss him, because Živkovic is he does his job, but he's not that involved offensively. He's not that pacey, and then defensively as well. He's not a wing back. So he tries hard. He does okay, but it's just not the same without Lazovic there. And I think we really missed him in this game and in these two games. And I think we really missed him against Portugal as well, because Živkovic on the right side was not one of our weak links, I would say, in general. But it's not his fault.
The Portugal game was such that Živkovic's skill set worked better, because Portugal didn't really press and didn't really run that much and try to play position.
Yeah, exactly. He had more time. He had more time against Portugal because for whatever reason they were going for the draw against us, so he had more time. But against Hungary, he didn't have a lot of time. They were pressing hard, and tonight he didn't have a lot of time either. So and you saw that, and you can see that he's playing out of position. So I think we have a lot of talent. We have a lot of pieces, and hopefully, and I think Pixie will make them fit. He has so much time now. We have those 4 games in June. Basically, it's a mini tournament for us. Hopefully he gives some guys a chance there.
I think he will, because the form in June is pretty bad. So he's probably going to try to mix it up.
Exactly. He's got to mix it up. He's got to mix it up. He's got to give some guys a chance. He's got to rotate. We have the squad to rotate. Thankfully, I'm sure he's going to bring a 30-player squad at least. So we'll see some more faces there. And as I said, we could take this as a learning experience. Better that this happened now than it happened in September, in our last Nations League games before the World Cup, and then we're all panicking, right? So this is a good chance for Pixie to show us what he can do. And Veli, you mentioned as well, him seeming like the type of guy who puts his arm around the player and motivates them to, come back from mistake. Well, let's look at the guys who've made big mistakes in qualifying. We have Milinkovic, Rajkovic, Gudel. Those guys all made, pretty big howlers in certain games. And then they all came back and started the next game. So he's not somebody Pixie's not somebody who's going to drop somebody because they had one bad game or one bad mistake. He definitely seems like a player's coach, someone who's going to talk through it with guys. He's going to try to give them the confidence back. So hopefully that works with, Pavic as well. And, we can get him going and we can fix those holes in our defense. Just before, we wrap up the show, I want to go through with everybody and see what are your guys' main points that you think you want to see, positive or negative, or want to see addressed before the games in June start. Luca, we'll go with you first.
Yeah, man. The biggest question mark for me is the goalkeeper situation. If we're talking about on the field personnel, and Veli mentioned it here, but Rajkovic's first competitive game against Ireland in Belgrade, you can tell on his face that he was nervous. Even the way that he conceded the goal was also nervous. He has these periods where he just freezes on the goal and the ball just goes by him and he's just kind of like watching it. And after, that Ireland game, I believe it was a 2-2 draw, and we were talking and we said, look, we're all a big fan of Rajkovic. We all know that he has a massive, massive potential. And this was his nerves in this game clearly showed. But as he becomes more and more comfortable with the national team, that'll go away. And he'll become more cemented in his place and all of those things that come with experience. It seems like that never materialized. And it seems like that the Rajkovic that played today, for example, against Denmark, is still the same Rajkovic that played his first game competitively for the national team against Ireland. And that's very worrying, man. And I'm with you also, Milos, on the front that from what I've seen of all the goalkeepers that we have, Vanja Milinkovic-savic is, I think, the best option that we have so far that I've seen with my eyes. Hopefully that position gets cemented sooner rather than later, because I also think part of our defensive woes are the fact that we're switching a goalkeeper every game. I think if we know this is our number one goalkeeper, and then he can start communicating with the defense on a regular basis, like every game, I think that's going to help out a lot as well defensively to solidify things.
Veli?
Winning is a mentality. And the biggest thing that I'd love to see in the June Nations League game is how to best cement that going into the end of the year, the end of the season, and then going on to the year after. So what I'd just love to see is that we are putting in our all for those Nations Leagues internationals, and then we can all go our separate ways for that 2 to 3 weeks, that we call holiday or you guys call vacation, and then we can come back recharged and refreshed. If anything, I would just want to see, but I'd rather have that happening in November of this year than straight away now, is that we just take those half chances whereby, like we had a few half chances against Hungary, we had a few half chances against Denmark, and I'd love them to be converted into goals. And I think that is whereby you have that old saying in life where you make your own luck, and I hope that starts to come toward us, in the Nations League games. I just hope that we then see an upward trajectory in terms of the level from these two friendly internationals to the competitive internationals, and all those people in the media and the narrative that says, oh, wow, it's another break because of international football. I can't wait till the Premier League comes back, or so on and so forth. To all those people, you guys can get stuffed, because there is something just still very, very special about international football, and long may it continue. I think the balance is right at the moment, but there is something special about international football that, club football just can't cover over. So that's what I'm hanging. Over. Yeah, we'll never cover over, and that's what I'm looking forward to. So just the step up in level from friendly internationals back to competitive internationals, and I'd love to start seeing an upward trajectory in those half chances that we create now being converted into goals. But I know that's going to be tough in June because we'll all be very tired when it comes to there. But that's that thing. Winning is a mentality. And those 4 internationals, is it an 8-day period, 10-day period? I don't know. I didn't check the fixture list. But if we can just pull that one last effort out for the national team, for the girls and boys, and for the fans of Serbia worldwide, if we can pull that out and, leave them with a very, very good taste going into the European summer or into the Northern Hemisphere summer, that would be super.
For sure. And I think another thing that I would like to see is maybe Mitrovic and Tadic not playing, 90 minutes every friendly. I mean, Tadic, the guy, did not look great these 2 games, and it's understandable. He's playing Champions League. He's having a long season. He's in his 30s. There's no reason for him to be playing all these minutes in these friendlies. Like, give him 60 minutes. Like, come on, give the guy a break. let's give somebody else a chance. Maybe SMS at the number 10, Lukic at the number 10. Let's see what somebody else can do. Because, I mean, realistically speaking, this might be Tadic's last couple of games of the national team. Right, the Europa League, and the Nations League, and then the World Cup. I think he's in great shape, and he might keep going, but you never know. This could be the last games he plays, and we have to think of potentially starting, finding his replacement earlier than we might think if he decides to hang it up after the World Cup. Alexa, what are your final thoughts and your wishes for the Nations League?
From a strictly tactical perspective, I agree on the goalkeeping situation. I think that should be fixed, and I think that giving Vanya more minutes, I think, is the right move. Whether it works or not, if he's no good, then we know that we switch back to what we know. If he ends up being great, you got to move in that direction. Trying to figure out what you do with Pavlovic and Nastasic on that left center back side, depending on what you mean, and just the general center back setup. Milinkovic is nailed on the right. Who you put in the middle really depends on the opponents you have, whether you stick Gude, whether you stick, Vekovic there, maybe you try to put Nastasic there to try to be a libero, something like that. And, other things as well. Hopefully, trying to find a way to get Jovic's form back, because if we play with 2 strikers and he's the only option off the bench, that's not really something I'm feeling too confident in. We have a lot of subs in midfield, a lot of subs in the wing-back spots, but going forward, we got to find more guys that can fill that role. And again, hoping that we maybe stick with that 5 in the midfield, because I think all our best performances have come when we've stacked the midfield and we've competed well in that sense. Giving other guys minutes as well. Marko Grujic and Eric, I think, are two guys that really jump out as guys that can be dynamic players, that can physically adapt to a game and change the midfield and be progressive enough to where they can put the ball forward. Or Šašić is another guy who was pretty decent tonight. So giving them minutes, I think, would give Guhle some rest. I think it would give more flexibility to bring Guhle back to the defense, but he's played more. It would take some pressure off milinkovic-savic, so hopefully we go that route. And just from a general standpoint, that the fans show up, I think that this team deserves it. Again, you don't have to, it would be great if you could fill the stadium, but it shouldn't be the situation like it was against Luxembourg or even in the last game against Qatar, although the Qatar game was a little bit more reasonable why there weren't that many fans. But the Luxembourg game, when we played at home, it was Saturday afternoon, 6 o'clock, lovely weather, and I don't think there was more than 5,000 people in the stadium. That should change. I hope that the fans realize that they got to do their part too. They got to have patience. And from that sense, I think the games are going to be interesting. We got tough teams that are going to be waiting for us, but I think we got the quality to break them down. I think that it's good for us to play against teams that we probably are better than and should be beating. And again, it's going to bring back to the positional build-up, which is probably what we're going to have to do, because we're going to be going up against teams that put 2 ranks before in front of us. We're going to have to take the game to somebody. And if we can do that, I'm going to feel more confident about the teams going forward. And with that, I leave to you one last question, because we are only about 60-something hours away from the World Cup draw. What are your desires and expectations for who you want to get? I want to get an answer from all you guys.
Well, that's a good question. I think let's just avoid the group of death. Hopefully we get, first pot. Hopefully we get Qatar. Second pot. Hopefully you avoid the tough European teams like Germany, Croatia, teams like that. And then fourth pot, I think we can, pretty much beat anybody from that pot. But let's get a Saudi Arabia in there. A nice, potential easy victory. Although nothing's easy with us, but I think it's a good chance that we get either one of the South American teams or Qatar in our group, because as you mentioned earlier, Alex, we can only have 2 European teams in one group. So by the time we're drawn in the third pot, it's going to be. There might already be teams in 2 groups.
Miloše, could I just jump in? Sorry, brother, because it's so relevant to especially today. Today's friendly, the only thing that are left in my mouth is I reckon manager Stojkovic had in his mind, I wouldn't mind playing Denmark again. Right? Like in a different scenario, in a different circumstance. So to answer Alex's question, yeah, I'd love to draw Qatar, being in pot 1, but a pot 2, I would love, because I've totally gone off World Cup draws. Do you know what I mean? Like, we've had good World Cup draws, then we've had a good World Cup schedule of games at the World Cup. I know that doesn't make sense, but we've had schedules of games that have actually worked for us as well, and we never took advantage of it. But I would love to get a Denmark or Switzerland. Do you know what I mean? I'd love to play them again at the World Cup. Do you know what I mean? Like, I would really, really love to. And then, I'd love to play at Panama, because if I end up going, that's the shirt that I want to swap. But I think you're going to be doing more than swapping shirts, to be fair. But absolutely. The only thing that I'm worried about is being in tie. If I take a top off and what's underneath it, I might just get arrested for that. But or the other thing is I might take my top off and I'd blend in with the crowd. So the World Cup draw doesn't bother me anymore. Do you know what I mean? Because I've actually think that we had our run of good World Cup draws and then a good schedule of matches at the World Cup. Do you know what I mean? And we never took advantage of it. So, the South Africa one comes to mind. Yeah, the South African one comes to mind, and then the Russian one comes to mind. I think we had a good draw and
great schedule.
Schedule, and we didn't take advantage of it. So I don't really worry about that anymore. But the only thing after today's friendly, I wouldn't mind getting Denmark again, right? Like in a more meaningful situation, and obviously we'll be at a neutral territory at the World Cup, and I would love to get Switzerland again for obvious reasons. So that's where I stand on it.
Not sure if I want to deal with a group with Qatar and Switzerland, two of FIFA's darlings in the group. The refs
Yeah,
won't be
exactly.
strong.
It's going to be a lot of referee assistance in those games. What about you, Luca? What's your hopes for the group?
There's only, no, I don't want to say there's only one team. There's one team at the top of my list who I would love for us to scalp properly, and that would be England, just to shut everybody up from the pundit class over there. That would just be beautiful, man. I think the worst case scenario for us would be getting the easiest group possible and not getting out of it. You know what I mean?
That's what Qatar, USA, Saudi Arabia, I guess.
Right? Yeah. So something along those lines, man. And then us failing to get out. That would be worst case scenario.
Oh man.
I think that would be that would be it when we throw in the towel for the national team.
So you'd rather get Brazil and Germany?
Exactly.
Honestly, pretty much.
I mean, at least that and like have decent games and not go through then tie with Qatar or something like that, dude.
Hey, the Dutch are in pot too. They've been our bullies for too long. I want payback. I want
That's right. Yeah, I love the Dutch.
And that's a doable game too. That's a very doable game. Yeah.
All right, boys.
Well, okay, so you go ahead, man. Sign off, dude. It is getting
I was going to say before we go away, our man Valley in his usual shout outs. Anything today, Valley? Are you even awake?
Absolutely,
right
absolutely. Yes. I'm going to struggle today, but listen. I usually talk about in our shout-outs, our Serbian diaspora and all that type of stuff. This one might seem pretty obvious, but I want to mention it all the same. My shout-out is to Milan Borjan. The man is going to a World Cup, and I think that is something that needs to be celebrated. Last week, I was rooting for Austria. I couldn't believe that I was doing that, but I was rooting for Austria because of Dragovic and Kalajic and Marko Arnautovic, hoping that they could get to a World Cup. Milos Deganic has still got a chance, but, I think they are smaller now than they were, say, a month ago. But at the end of the day, they are still part of the Serbian diaspora too, and it is what it is. And I think that's just a crowning achievement on a really, really, really solid career, and I think that is something that needs to be celebrated. So, Milan Borjan, you're a star, brother. You are going to the World Cup. Please don't read into anything that, whatever our club allegiances are. At the end of the day, the man is going to a World Cup, and I think that is just wonderful, wonderful news. So, this pod's shout-out is to him.
Hey, Veli,
and a couple additions would be great. A couple additions would be great.
I bet you you can make the case that he should be the Serbia's number one keeper if he was playing for the national team, dude. Borjan, that is.
Maybe. It could be.
With the situation.
One thing that he has between the posts that you know of a lot of good goalkeepers in the past, he's got charisma.
Yes.
Right? He has a presence. And I think in a way that, because I have been following it, because that was one of my very first trips in 1991 or two. I went to Canada and I spent all my time in British Columbia, and I had a wonderful time, and I saw this team called the Vancouver 86ers that are now the Whitecaps and so on and so forth. And I've got a great affinity, with Canada. So I was really happy that they qualified. And another, like a Serbian player is there. You never know. A Deganic might squeeze in for Australia. A Georgia Mihailovic might squeeze in for the US. So listen. We have a lot to celebrate. We have a lot to be proud about. So, that's my shout-out for this podcast for Milan.
Damn right.
Shout out to the Macedonian boys. You guys gave it.
Yeah, first of all, that was a brutal game, man.
Great effort.
That was a brutal game.
Horrible game. Great effort.
Well, brutal for the Italians in the first one, dude. But that was I felt that one for the Italians, man. I got to shout out real quick to all of the Serbs balling out in the NBA, man. I mean, like the last round of games, Poku almost had a triple-double, dude. Like, they're really balling out, man. And of course,
Bogey's hitting 30 regularly.
Yeah, man. It's fucking, and that was only in like 27 minutes on the court too. That it's beautiful to see. Bottom line, and Jokic is MVP again.
Damn right. And the only thing I'll say about Borjan and starting for Serbia is, he's not exactly, unprone to those mental lapses. It's the only thing that, he's a very solid goalkeeper, great shot stopper. But,
he sometimes he loses concentration, and that's the only thing that I would
Also,
question.
shout out to the FA for making the crest a little bit more tolerable. It's still not great, but they at least listen to us a little.
Bro, by the time we see the final product, like imagine the amount of shit's gonna be done to
if
it.
they
Like,
make it respectable, I'll take 57 changes. Just don't give me the fact.
Yeah, for real, dude.
yeah, at least they like straighten it out a bit. Thank God, but we'll see what it looks like, man.
And
They're
some
gonna
blue
make
color,
changes.
which
Hey,
always helps.
the final product is gonna look exactly like the crest looks now. Watch after all the reiterations.
Dude, the thing is, like, okay, if they're gonna make this the crest, like, why not just go back to coat of arms like it was originally?
I know.
It's like almost the same thing.
I know,
It's almost
dude.
the same thing, but worse.
Right, it's like
just
a
make it the
cartoon
coat
version
arms.
of the
Like,
coat of
what are you
arms. Yeah,
doing?
exactly, dude. It makes no sense.
Doesn't make any sense.
As the risk of sounding like a broken record, I'm going to go down to like an NBA chant or something like that, and I'm just going to keep saying blue shorts, blue shorts. That's what I want to come back. The blue shorts.
Preach it.
Yeah, like blue shorts.
We technically have blue shorts with the white shirt, but we need the red shirt and the blue shorts.
That's right.
That's
The
right.
royal blue color. None of this navy crap anymore. Do you know what I mean? Like
Exactly.
I don't mind the away strip. Like the away strip does look rather classy. There's no two ways about it. But the blue shorts on the home thing, like blue shorts. You know what I mean? Like I could see an NBA crowd saying that just on my initiation, but I highly doubt it. But since we're on the basketball theme, the Serbian national women's team is coming to Australia in September, and I know the diaspora is absolutely going nuts over that. I'm actually taking the family myself.
Beautiful.
To Sydney.
Where are they going? Sydney. Let's go.
In Sydney in September. The diaspora over there is huge. So they will make the girls feel like it's a home game without a shadow of a doubt. So the girls always do us proud. You know what I mean? Like you never ever see a Serbian national team in the girls in any sport not do us proud. So long may that tradition continue.
Shout out from a basketball standpoint to Vasaniti. She was kind enough to take a picture of me after a long flight. He was a real MVP on and off the court.
Damn right as well. All right, boys.
Absolutely.
Great show. And just one final thing. Let's fill the stadium in June. Let's at least get 20,000 people if we're not going to sell those games out. But come on. Get behind the team. Let's get a great start.
And if the FA can do their part, let's make the tickets a reasonable price and make it a celebratory type of situation. Listen, I have them, Milos has one now, and, Bogdan, as many people on this podcast listening are going to have their turn. I love it when kids are there.
Luka might have some in Mexico. We don't know yet.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Unconfirmed.
That's what I had to explain to my wife.
Little muchacho in Monterey somewhere.
That's what I had to explain to my wife once, that there was this unexplained 1 week in Norway, but you never know. But the thing is, listen, I love it when our kids are there, you know what I mean? Without getting all, we are the future on your ass, but they're our future, right? There's many kids that we can go there with. They can go with their parents and, have a good time, see their heroes in action. And, you know what I mean? So if the FA can do their part and put tickets at a reasonable price so more people can go there, I think that'd be a wonderful thing.
Absolutely. And with that, thank everybody for listening. Thank you as always. And follow us on Twitter at the Serbian Football Show. And we'll talk to you next week. Take care.